welcome back. My name is Faye and I run Faye World Photography and Faye World Education, and this is my space to show up on YouTube with lots of free hacks, free content. Yeah, let's dive in. So today I'm going to be basically giving you like a masterclass. If I was teaching somebody from scratch tomorrow how to be a photographer, what to focus on, and they literally had like a crash course, this is all the stuff that I would focus on. So I've made a list, so excuse me having my phone, but I'm going to go through everything, and this is not obviously comprehensive. There's loads more stuff that we could cover, but I'm going to cover all of the main things so that if you are quite short on time, maybe you're new to the industry and you're just finding your feet and there's so much information to consume, you don't know where to go, this is everything that I think you need to know. Let's dive in. So first question is going to be about gear and equipment, and I've actually done a big video on this showing you everything that I use. Spoiler, since then, is that a spoiler? I don't know, but since then I have actually bought the Sony f2, which is the dreamiest lens ever. But yes, I'll pop a link below to my kit video so you can go and have a look. If you were starting, and this is like right at the beginning, you're probably going to start with a camera and a kit lens. So Sony, I shoot on Sony, other brands are available of course, but this is what I started with. I started with an A7 III and a 2870 kit lens, f2.8, which is like mid-range, but it is cheap. It's really economical, like under £2,000 for a really good camera and a really good lens. And for the first few months of my photography career, I only shot on that. It was before I did weddings of my own, and when I assisted at weddings, the main shooter was aware that I only had one camera, one lens. Everything was very transparent. So yeah, but the bare minimum that camera needs to have is 2 card slots. There's loads of other specs that you can look into, but the one that's really important as a wedding photographer is that it's got 2 card slots, because if a card gets corrupted, you just want to make sure that the images are safe no matter what. So the first thing that a new photographer or a prospective photographer would think about is kit. What kit do I need? I have got an extensive video about what kit I use, which I will link down below, but I'm going to now break down like the different types of cameras that you can get, things to consider when investing in that initial starter kit. So there's basically 2 main types of cameras, DSLRs and mirrorless. Most of you, if you can afford it, will go for mirrorless. I won't like bore you with loads of jargon, but basically mirrorless is like the most modern version of the types of cameras that you can get. So I'd recommend going with that if you can afford it, because there's going to be more longevity there. Next thing is going to be lenses. Most professional cameras don't come with a lens attached to them. You take the lenses off so that you can have different types of lenses on your camera at any one time. So there's 2 types of cameras, DSLR and mirrorless. We're going to go for the mirrorless if budget will allow. And then with the lenses, there's also 2 main types. We've got prime lenses and we've got zoom lenses. Now prime lenses, all that means is that it's a fixed focal length. So if I'm here, like now, it's not moving, that's a fixed focal length. But if I had a zoom, I could swivel it around and we will get closer or further away, depending on the focal length of the zoom that you were choosing at that one time. Now, when I first got into photography, everybody shot on primes because you're inside quite a lot, and the zoom lenses that were available on the market when I started were aperture 2.8. Don't worry about the word aperture if that means nothing to you right now. Basically 2.8 compared to primes, which go down to 1.2, that's quite a big difference. So essentially, the lower the number of the aperture, the more light the camera lets in. So that's why when I started in weddings and I was working predominantly inside for the bulk of the day, especially because we live in the UK and let's be honest, the weather's bloody terrible, that lower f-stop was better for quality, so everybody aspired to have a kit full of prime lenses. The go-to prime lens, if you started looking into lenses and you're seeing all the different numbers and you're not sure what it means, the go-to prime lenses are pretty much 35mm is the most popular across the board. If you asked most photographers if they could only have one lens, what focal length would they use, most people would say a 35, and that's because you can get a decent wide shot, but you can also move closer and get a good crop shot as well. But in terms of how much it lets in the frame, it's a good focal length. And then you go on to combos. So if you go on to 2 cameras, a lot of people would shoot on a 35 and an 85, or a 50 and an 85, or a 35 and a 50. It's rare that you'll see people with bigger focal lengths than that, or smaller. Sometimes, especially for like the more alternative style, people love a 24mm for the dance floor. That's because it's super wide. For me personally, it's a bit too much like a fisheye aesthetic, so I don't love it. However, a 28, which is like just a bit more, I quite like. So there's lots to think about, but if you were going to get a lens, a zoom lens now, you can get what's like an f2 is the smallest. I've just bought it. It's amazing. I do need to do a video on this at some point. But yeah, if you're going to get a zoom lens, my number one choice would be the f2 Sony 28-70. It's absolutely immaculate. I've now shot multiple weddings on just that one lens. But if you wanted to go down the prime route, a 35 would be a really good option. If budget is limited, that's something to consider as well. You can get what's called the nifty 50 lens. You can pick this up for literally like 150 quid. 50, it's not ideal all day for a wedding, but you can definitely get by with it. But yeah, 150 quid, like you just can't knock that. So money will also come into it. For context, the f2 is like just under 3k. So there's quite a big jump. You're basically paying for the convenience. But if you've got the budget, f2 zoom would be amazing. If you haven't, don't turn your nose up at a 50. Like, I absolutely love my 50. I actually got rid of it last year to get the G Master 50, but that's a lot bigger. And I actually traded the G Master back in because the quality was better, but just for the convenience of how small the 50 is, it's an extra lens that you can pop in your bag, and it's just like a backup lens, whereas another big, like G Master 50, it's just too heavy for the benefit. So a question that I was really interested in when I started was, do I need like really expensive kit? Is it better to invest in my cameras or lenses? A lot of people will tell you different things, and it does get quite confusing. Personally, I started on a Sony a7 III, and I had 2 of those for the first like 2-3 years of my career, and it was absolutely fine for the beginning. I upgraded in the end because the a7 IVs, which is what I shoot on now, they've got more pixels. And if you are cropping down, you've just got more space to play when you're editing. But you don't need the pixels. You could get by on an a7 III. In terms of like what is good to invest in, I think a really good zoom lens like the f2 would be where I would spend my money now, because it's the convenience. That being said, I do think there's a lot of stock to be had for learning on prime lenses, i.e. those lenses where you've got a fixed focal length. So I've not really answered the question, but it really just depends on what you think your priorities are as a photographer. If you are wanting to have really good quality kit, the best possible images, you probably want to go down the route of prime lenses because you're going to have more control. If you are wanting convenience, you're probably going to go for a zoom, but you will sacrifice some of the quality, especially in those really low light situations. And then in terms of accessories, there's loads that you can get, but you just need a good bag that's water resistant. I got mine off Amazon, and that was my bag for like the first 2 years. Now I've got a 100 bag, so it's a lot more expensive, but it's so comfy to wear. And if you think we're carrying like kilos and kilos of weight on our back, I do think it's worth investing in further down the line, but definitely to start with, you don't need it. I should say as well, I've got special storefronts set up on Amazon. They are affiliate links. You can see my everyday starter essentials at a glance, and then also the kit that I use every day now. So definitely check that out. If I'm saying loads of words and it's all getting a bit overwhelming and you're not sure how to make sense of everything that I'm saying, that's a really nice way of seeing at a glance the kit that I used back in the day and the kit that I use now. So you've got your kit, you're at your wedding, and now we've got to go on camera settings. Now, controversial, but I would say there's really nothing to be ashamed of if you go into auto mode for your first few weddings. You probably want to be quite present, pay attention to the main photographer, and just get your bearings, learn how a wedding works before going straight onto settings. Like, yes, shoots and stuff could be good to practice with different like camera profiles like manual and aperture priority and all that stuff, but at the first few weddings I really don't think it would do you a disservice to just go onto auto mode and be more immersed in the situation and pay more attention to what the main photographer's doing, how they're interacting with clients, what the guests are doing, the run through of the day. Like, there's so much to be had from that situation that's not just about learning your settings. When I first started, people were quite like, not, to be honest, they were a bit aggy. Like, the vibe was definitely, if you're a proper photographer, you shoot manual, and that was that. And Long story short, spoiler alert, I don't shoot manual, I shoot aperture priority. I want to be consistent even if I'm going inside, outside all day. So for wedding photography, I feel like aperture priority is the best for me. I do go on to the shutter mode when I'm shooting flash just to have more control, but for the bulk of the day, I shoot aperture priority. But as I said right in the beginning, don't be afraid to just shoot on auto if you are learning the ropes. Speaking of auto, I really recommend sticking to auto ISO. Our cameras are so civilized, they know so much, and like we're humans, we're prone to error. Weddings are so fast paced. I really don't think that there's anything wrong with shooting auto ISO just to get the exposure right in the image. It's worth saying though, especially if you're shooting in like darker venues, especially at the start, you might find that the venues that you are having the opportunities to go to are not the best and the light is not the best. So it might be worth putting a max. So if you go into the settings, put a max or a cap on how much your ISO can go up to, just so it's not getting crazy. So in terms of composition and technique, basically how you frame your images, there's a few different hacks that I'm going to give you. And it's more about the storytelling rather than anything technical. This is definitely not a video for you to learn about the rule of thirds or any of that stuff. I'm sure there are hundreds and hundreds of videos that on YouTube. I'm just going to give you some practical steps of things that I like to do as a wedding photographer that you could try. So the first thing that's really easy is to shoot through things. Windows, car doors, shoot through mirrors, anything just to make your composition a little bit more interesting. I feel like in the beginning, most photographers just shoot a subject in the middle of the frame, nothing around them, there's no immersion, there's no shooting through things, you're just getting an image of the people, and the priority is definitely to just take a photo in focus of whatever's in the middle. As you get more experienced, you start to realise that it's better to shoot through things because it feels more immersive, especially for wedding photography where you're wanting to feel like the couple are back there on the day. So shooting through things and having things partially covering bits of your frame, that's going to add to this like aura of magic, I guess I would say. So that's definitely something to experiment with. Another thing that I'd say about composition is you're not going to know what you like until you try lots of things. Like, just believe that you've got the shot after you've taken the shot and then try something new. Whenever I do workshops, I'm always saying like, right, you've got that shot, now move. And I don't just mean you, I mean you could move the camera backwards, move it forwards, move it up, get on a chair, get a different POV, crouch down physically yourself, shoot through things, shoot through people's, like over people's shoulders. Like, I'm constantly going behind guests, shooting through wine glasses, all sorts. Yeah, anything to make it a bit more interesting. Now, the next hack that I'm going to give you is so important. It's probably the most important thing that is going to help you get the best images, and it's where to stand. And I don't just mean like get a pretty background. I mean, where is the sun and where are you going to stand in relation to your subject in order to get the best quality images? And spoiler alert, usually it's not where the prettiest background would be to the naked eye, which is very annoying. So in terms of lighting, there's two main types of light that I'm going to talk to you about now: direct light and low light. If it's in the middle somewhere, if there's a bit of sun, a bit of cloud coverage, we're cooking on gas, we're fine. But low light and direct light are the two bits that you need to be really aware of to get the best quality images. If you don't get good quality images with things like presets, you're going to find that they're not sitting on it right. You're going to feel like it's a problem with the preset, but actually it's not, it's your lighting. And yeah, once you get these two hacks, it's going to totally transform your images. So the first hack is, if it's direct light, i.e. really sunny, you want to be getting blinded because the sun wants to be directly in your face and you want to be basically stood where the head of the shadows of your subjects are. So let's say there's people here, their shadows are coming towards you, you want to be stood either directly where their head is or just a bit further back. This is really important. When it's direct sun, if you are even at a slight angle, you're going to get ridiculous shadows across the face, skin's not going to look good. Backlit does look a bit glowy, and it's still not as good as it would be if it was even light, but that is the best that you're going to get in that lighting situation. Now, in terms of low light, what a lot of newer photographers make the mistake of thinking is that because it's overcast, you can stand anywhere. And yes, while the shadows on the faces might not be as prominent, they are still there and they are still unflattering. So as a general rule, if it's direct light, you should be getting blinded because you're going to be stood near the shadows' heads of whoever it is that you're photographing. If it's low light, you're going to be stood with the sun directly behind you so that your people in front of you have got as much light on them as possible. Again, you're trying to avoid as much as you can side light. Now, sometimes it's really, really tricky light, and no matter what you do, you've got to go out and do family formal straight after the ceremony or in the middle of the cocktail hour. It's 2 p.m, the sun's at its highest, and it's a shit show for the light. It's not looking good, no matter what you do. So let's say the couple don't want to go inside and they don't want to move the portraits later on, which is totally fair enough. What I would do in this situation is I would get guests to go around with me and I would test the light. And I'm going to show you some examples now on the screen of like one in particular where I just saw these girls having a little laugh over to one side. They were being super, super cute. And I just asked them if they could help me for 2 minutes for the couple's pictures, and they said yes, of course, anything to help. And you can see where I've put them with the rule where their shadow would be touching me, but then you can see that the background isn't the most inspiring. So then I've gone to somewhere where I'm at a slight angle. The background's okay. It's not the worst, it's not the best. It's like a mid-range background. But even though the light's a little bit worse, the background is more important in that situation, and the light is still okay. So I've chosen to do them, and then I'll show you some couples portraits and family formals in that exact spot. And yeah, you can see why I've got to that decision. So don't be afraid to use guests to help you test the light. If you're looking at it and you're not sure where you should go, that's a really easy thing that you can do. So we have covered kit and we've covered basic shooting tips, and now we're going to go on to post-processing. So you've got 2 cards. I always say this, like, we get paid enough, maybe not in the beginning, but eventually you'll get paid enough that you can just keep the cards until the gallery is delivered. It is just not worth the risk. Even if you've backed up on external hard drives and all the rest of it. And I should say that I've got friends that say to me that I'm way too extra, and to that I respond, we are photographers. If we lose the photos, we're fucked. And it's as simple as that. If we lose someone's photos, wedding photos, we're not coming back from that. There is no career. So I just think it's really important to make sure that everything is safe. So typically, I keep the cards in a tackle box. It's actually a crafts box. Label it as the wedding, and I keep those completely safe until after the gallery's been delivered. I'll actually not format them for as long as I can, because I've got so many memory cards now that I can usually get away with leaving them for a few weeks, so that if anybody gets in touch. So straight after the wedding, I will back up using a program called Photo Mechanic, which is basically going to help me copy and paste all of the images off of the memory card onto an SSD. Now with SSDs, there's different types that you can get. I go through this in my kit video, so look down that below if you want a bit of help deciding which storage to get. After I've backed up, the memory cards go into a tackle box. It's like a little crafts box with a sticker labelling the wedding. I will keep them on there for as long as possible, even after I've delivered the gallery, just in case the couple come back and they request something. I only back up the cool draws, but I do back up all of the group shots and all of the couple's portraits, just in case. Because from experience, if they ever want anything extra, it's always from those sections of the day. Maybe grandma's unhappy with the photos that she's got, she wants something extra, or the couple want a specific moment that they remember taking together. So I always back up all of the couple's portraits, all of the raw, all of the group photos, but the rest of the images from the day, I only back up the good ones that I've handpicked. In the beginning, maybe just back up everything just to be safe, because what you might find is that as you find your style, when you go back and look at the that you picked like last year, in a year, while you're finding yourself and your photography style, you might fall in love with a completely separate bit of the gallery. So if you cull all of it, then you know that you've got options later on down the line as well. So in terms of editing, there's 2 main bits of software that photographers use. Capture One is a really good one, or Lightroom, and Lightroom's also got 2 versions, Lightroom or Lightroom Cloud. I'd really recommend, or I should say Lightroom Classic or Lightroom Cloud. I'd really recommend using Lightroom as in the LR version first. It's really simple, it's got all the main bits that you'll need, but not absolutely everything, but it's like a really lovely condensed version of Lightroom Classic, where you're going to be able to tweak your images, learn the ropes a little bit with things like colour grading, presets, presets, all that jazz, without having to do everything in the kitchen sink. I can't cover editing in this video, it would take way too long, but my recommendation would be to get some presets. I sell presets via the Feywild Education store. They're really good. Have a look at them. My whole vibe as a wedding photographer is to enhance the raw image rather than completely change it. So if that sounds like something you would like, then definitely head over to Feywild Education and check out the presets. I will also pop a link down below for the presets that you can access them easily. And then very quickly, we're going to talk about sharing your work. Once you've edited your images, you're going to need to deliver them to the client. And for this, I would recommend Pixieset. Pixieset is a fantastic all-in-one space where you can design your website, manage clients, including things like contracts, but also deliver your galleries in a lovely aesthetic way. Yeah, so that your clients can access their images at the touch of a button, and it just streamlines that workflow, streamlines that working together, and helps your clients get to their gorgeous images as quickly as possible. I'll pop a link down below for Pixieset. So yeah, everything that we've covered, I've covered it really quickly, obviously just giving you an overview of the most important parts. If you found this helpful, I would love it if you could subscribe. I'm showing up over the next few weeks with lots of helpful content. I'm showing up, like this year is my year for YouTube. I'm going to keep showing up with lots of things that I think are going to be helpful, normally informed by my one-to-one mentoring sessions. So if I find that a lot of the same questions are coming up again and again, I'll usually make a note to come and pop it on YouTube. So watch out for all the gorgeous content that's coming your way. And yeah, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully see you again soon.